You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Your data is like gold to hackers, and they'll sell it to the highest bidder. Are you protected? McAfee helps shield you, blocking suspicious texts, malicious emails, and fraudulent websites. McAfee Secure VPN lets you browse safely, and its AI-powered text scam detector spots threats instantly. You'll also get up to $2 million of award-winning antivirus and identity theft protection, all for just $39.99 for your first year. Visit McAfee.com. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
Now's a good time to remember where tequila's story truly began. In 1795, Cuervo invented tequila.
Cuervo.
What are you doing here?
Cuervo. Anytime someone says Cuervo, I show up.
Well, I do know that to be true, but even during ad reads, like...
Cuervo.
I think he could lay out, especially for one of our great partners.
Sweet, delicious Cuervo.
Since then, Cuervo has stayed true to its roots. The same family, the same land, the same passion.
Cuervo.
So, enjoy the tequila that started it all. Cuervo.
Cuervo.
The tequila that invented tequila. Proximo. Cuervo.com. Please drink responsibly.
Cuervo.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Billy wanted to talk more Geno Smith.
Did he?
That's two. Now you get one more.
Geno Smith. Oh, now we
All right, that's it.
It's a damn shame.
Now we can.
Next person, penalty box.
Gino Vanelli. Yeah, Gino Auriemma.
Let's go out to Roy. He is with the Panthers. He is on the ice. He is ready to give us an update on everything that's happening with the Florida Panthers. This is exactly where all hockey stand-ups should be and how all hockey stand-ups should look. Mike Ryan, Roy, I'm curious your opinion here because the hockey show that is often on Fridays was able to react to this is in real time, correct? When this happened last week. Mike Ryan is not here for Brad Marchand, though. How do you feel? That is a minority opinion I feel like he's expressing on behalf of Panther fans. I do not believe that he speaks for all Panther fans, that if you can get a 36-year-old Brad Marchand for $125,000, you absolutely end up doing that. Roy, where are you? And thank you for joining us from the arena. What can you give us in the way of information over there?
Still injured. He's going to possibly be on the ice to do some stuff, but right now he's going to travel with the team up to Boston, and that's when he's going to finally say goodbye to his former teammates. And he actually got broken up a little bit about talking about his time in Boston and how that went down before he was traded. So right now we're waiting for him to come back into the lineup. But can you imagine him being on that second line with Sam Bennett and Matty Tkachuk? Oh, the Panthers would be the most hated team in the league.
Roy, he called Sam Bennett a scumbag today, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He did it in a joking fashion, yes. He actually loved him, and they got together during the Four Nations tournament. Him, Sam Bennett, and Sam Reinhart, they played together for Team Canada, and it seems like they patched things up considering what happened last year in the playoffs when he got punched in the face by Sam Bennett.
Billy mentioned earlier that it seems wildly inefficient to have Marchand fly down here to do this press conference only to go right back up there and be there with the team for the first road game in Boston.
Yeah, it is kind of inefficient, but, he had to get down here, get downloaded on the actual goings-on with the team, and David Dwork is right next to me. But, yeah, I mean, it does seem inefficient for him to go down and then go back up, but he has to get his stuff and everything. But he's traveling with the team throughout the entire road trip, a 6-game road trip coming up for the Panthers.
What is the level? I'd like to talk to Dwork here, if you don't mind, since he came into the shot awkwardly, and you pointed out. I thought it would have been slightly more amusing if he had just awkwardly appeared and then left. But David Dwork, your co-host on the hockey show that sometimes appears on Friday, what would you give us in the way of fan and customer reaction to the Florida Panthers behaving like the Tampa Bay Lightning, stashing away Tkachuk so that they could get a Marchand?
I think there's a lot of anger in the world out there, and I think Panther fans don't give a bleep about it because they were the ones that were angry. Now they have this opportunity to do what teams wish they could do. The reaction on Twitter has been fun to see, just because I think from our perspective, we're just basking in the greatness of what the Panthers are doing right now, and everyone else can just kind of cry about it.
Roy, I still am confused at watching and seeing the Florida Panthers after 30 years behave like an adult, mature franchise that reacts competently to what it is that their customers want.
I know, it's weird, isn't it? I'm getting used to it now. It's been, I don't know, how long has Bill Zito been in charge as general manager? 5 years now. So I'm starting to finally get used to it. An actual responsible, stable organization that's playing hockey down here, and it's actually fun to see.
Given the history, is it possible that that the Panthers traded for Brad to ruin the end of his career? Because they have like such a wealth of talent that they've decided, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to mess with this guy because we hate him and we're going to make sure that he's miserable. You put on a good show today, you give him the sweater, you give him the hat, everybody's, happy-go-lucky, and then you really make the rest of his career difficult.
Well, considering that Brad Marchand actually requested to be traded here, I doubt that's the case. But, hey, do what you want to do, Billy.
He always will.
I'm just asking.
It doesn't seem like there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm where you are, though. I don't feel like that is pulsating Hockey Nation everywhere around you. I'm not feeling the kind of enthusiasm around the Panthers that I've been told exists, that you feel like you're standing in the middle of something cold and antiseptic.
Because nobody's here, Dan. Practice hasn't started yet, and as soon as practice starts, I believe it might be. Is it an open practice today?
No.
No, it's not open practice today. So, yeah, there's not a lot of excitement because there are no fans here.
Okay.
Oh. Hey, Roy, where would you rank Geno Smith among NFL quarterbacks?
We can't talk about Geno Smith.
He's just writing this down. We'll see. Let
Just
Roy
curious.
answer.
Hold on.
Listen, I'm not going to the penalty box when I get to the studio tomorrow, so you're not going to bait me into that. No, sir.
All right, but pick a number between 10 and 15.
10 and 15?
Yeah.
Lower the
12.
Wow, that's where Greg had him. That's where Greg had him.
Putting you down for Team 12.
Incredible.
All right. Thank you, Roy. We appreciate the coverage from an empty and cold arena where the players are not yet practicing. That locker room still smells bad, though, right? No matter whether they're not sweaty or are sweaty, the locker room always smells like mildew and must.
They have invested in an exhaust fan, so it's not as smelly. So good for us.
Wow.
Okay, good. Breaking news.
Each locker has its own little air conditioning filter
still
that filters
stinks.
air.
It
Smells like Brian Skrudland.
It does still smell like Brian Skrudland. He's right, and that's not a good smell. It's swampy and it's not good. Even
Hockey's the smelliest sport, right?
By far.
Football's pretty bad.
Oh, yeah.
Not hockey, though.
I think hockey's by far the worst. Then it goes football, soccer, baseball, and then I
Golf
don't know.
smells great.
Golf doesn't smell that bad.
Football tends to be a bigger locker
Dork
room
laughing.
with more players in it, so there's more general open air. For some reason, the hockey locker room is smaller than I would like it to be, but they also have fewer players, right? The hockey locker room is a little more cramped than it needs to be. I feel like all hockey. Do I have this wrong, Roy? I feel like all hockey locker rooms need to be twice as large as they actually are.
Well, there's only, 18 to 20 players in a locker room as opposed to a football team which has about 60. So, yeah, it does need to be a bit bigger, especially the Panthers locker room. I mean, that arena's been, 1998? It's over 20 years old, so they're not going to build a bigger locker room in there for them unless they get a new arena, which I hope actually
Champions
happens
deserve
soon,
a bigger
but
locker room.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
absolutely.
Their brand new facility is amazing. One of the big upgrades in all of sports from like team HQs. But Roy, I'm coming to grips with the fact that I'm in the minority here. I think most Panther fans, it took them a second to warm up to it, but when they realized what they gave up, which is next to nothing, and the fact that they got to hurt Boston fans yet again without even doing something on the ice, they're in on this concept. But for me, I'm always going to hate him. Yeah. I like hating him. Yeah. I'm sure there's a hypothetical that you could craft, game-winning goal to send the Panthers to the Stanley Cup final or a huge goal in the Stanley Cup final where I may crack. No. But as someone that has sat on my hands every time Alonzo Mourning is introduced at the AAA and maintaining that level of resentment, I don't think I'm going to budge on this one. Yeah. I'm going to continue hating Brad Marchand. Where do you align yourself with?
Yeah. Well, Brad Marchand as a person, as a human being, I've changed my mind about him maybe 3 years ago for his stance on Tony DeAngelo, for his stance on the Bruins, trying to sign a prospect by the name of Mitchell Miller, who bullied a developmentally disabled black kid by making him eat a piece of candy out of a urinal and repeatedly called him the N-word. And the Bruins decided not to sign him based on how Brad Marchand and a couple of the other players felt on the team. So as a person, I definitely have turned around on him. He seems like a stand-up guy. But as a player, he's perfect for this team. Absolutely perfect for this team.
What was that sound?
It's probably the PR person dropping the notes, hearing Roy invoke that pass. I thought you were going to go face licking.
I thought Mike Ryan was down on Marchand as a person. Mike Ryan.
Yeah, I'm down. I don't like him as a person or a player, but whatever. He's a fourth liner. It's all right. Maybe sometimes we'll swap Greer for him.
It's a fourth liner?
Yeah. I mean, go through our wingers. Who do you rate more? A bad player, bad person. Occasionally, if we want to spark, maybe dress him occasionally. That's cool with me. But I'm playing Greer over him. Not taking Jesper out.
Yeah, I doubt that he's
not taking Mackey out. Are you taking Mackey out? I'm not taking Mackey out. Verhaeghe seemed to figure it out a little bit.
He's not going to lead the lineup either. I'm not going to lead the lineup.
Greer, see you later, Greer.
Let's not marry ourselves to the idea that Brad Marchand has to play every game, is what I'm saying.
Is this the best and the deepest Panther team there has ever been?
Yeah.
Dork.
So,
yes, Roy. Yes.
Coming into March, they were already favored to get out of the East and make the final, but after this trade deadline, I think it's safe to say that they're the Stanley Cup favorite.
Who do you fear the most?
Rose.
No, I would say Colorado's probably a good team to be fearing right now. I don't fear the Jets.
I do.
I am here for off-mic
they've got
comedy.
amazing goaltending, and they're really deep.
I'm also here for you just naming teams in the Western Conference because that ain't our problem until we get to our third straight Stanley Cup final, potentially.
Yeah, Mike's right. It's not our problem right now. Yeah. We'll worry about it come late June.
You don't fear Ovechkin?
No. I think they might not make it out of the first round.
Yeah. Really?
They're not built for the playoffs.
They're not built for the
playoffs.
Yeah.
They're built like the Panthers President's Trophy team. Exciting hockey, end-to-end rushes, but when you get to the playoffs where everybody starts beating the snot out of each other, it doesn't really work that well.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate all of your work on the hockey show and beyond. They are very excited. Everything around the Panthers is feeling championship excellent, and Bill Zito is somebody who is climbing up the ranks in terms of culture and legacy-making executives in the history of South Florida because he's got a lot of popularity as it regards the architecture of that.
This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is sponsored by BetterHelp. Who's in your support system and how have they changed your life? Think about your favorite leaders, mentors, idols. They don't all have the answers, but they do know when to ask for help. In a world that glorifies hyper-independence, we sometimes forget that we thrive with support. We're stronger, healthier, and more resilient when we have people to lean on. Therapy is one of the best ways to build that support system. It helps with positive coping skills, setting boundaries, and becoming the best version of yourself. Here's the thing, therapy isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. It's for everybody. Whether you're facing a big life transition, feeling overwhelmed, or just want to grow, therapy can help. That's where BetterHelp comes in. With over 30,000 credentialed therapists, you can find somebody who truly understands you. It's fully online, making therapy accessible, affordable, and convenient. No waiting rooms, no long commutes, just the support you need, whenever and wherever you need it. And by the way, if you ever feel like switching therapists, it's no cost to you whatsoever. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/DLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DLB.
All right, I know I got to do this ad read, but hold on. Let me reapply. Did you hear that? Yep, that's my new favorite lip gloss from NYX Cosmetics. Now I'm ready to talk to you. I've been a huge fan of NYX Cosmetics for many years now. In fact, I use their Thick It, Stick It brow gel every single day. So you can imagine my excitement when we recently received a special delivery to the Le Batard studios from our friends over at NYX Cosmetics. And there it was. When I opened the box, glowing, I heard the angels sing, "Ah." It's their latest lip gloss fat oil lip drip. It's NYX Cosmetics' first lip oil of its kind. This creamy lip oil will have your lips dripping with fat, perks. You get all the shine of a lip gloss and none of the stickiness while experiencing 12-hour hydration. I'm usually a matte lip gloss kind of gal. My normal go-to is NYX Cosmetics Lip Gloss, the Lingerie XXL. But after applying the status update shade, I have found my new go-to lip gloss. Fat Oil Lip Drip has high shine finish with comfortable wear and none of the sticky texture. A lip product that's hydrating, non-sticky, and only $9? Now that's a win. Try Fat Oil Lip Drip from NYX Professional Makeup. Available in 14 universally flattering shades. Find your perfect Fat Oil Lip Drip. Shop now at NYXCosmetics.com or a retailer near you.
Dan Le Batard.
This guy comes in as the next Wayne Gretzky. His nicknames include the Chosen One and McJesus. Okay? He's a great player. He scores a lot of goals. He scores a ton of assists, but it hasn't translated to making Edmonton a powerhouse in the league.
They're in the final.
Stugotz.
What's your nickname for him?
McOverrated.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
We have learned that it is difficult to stay atop the championship mountain, not just in hockey, but you saw that Denver won the championship, and now yesterday you're watching, and Denver is getting run out of the building late in the game against Oklahoma City because Oklahoma City is going to be good for a really long time. And when that game got to deciding time yesterday, the best offensive player I've ever seen stopped mattering. What happens with Denver when Jokic is on the court and when he's off the court is a bit stupefying architecturally, that they haven't gotten him more help in Denver. He puts up the first 30-20-20 in league history. And do you understand how disorienting it is to have the first 30-20-20 in league history delivered by somebody who talks about their game this way?
I can't dunk it, guys. Did you see me play? I never dunk. Did you see me dunk? I never dunk.
What is happening in this league?
It is so strange to see him go for 30, 20, and 20 and be entirely unstoppable, but Denver hasn't gotten him enough help. He should make the mess that Jimmy made, even though he won the championship, because he's like, you guys can't do better than
You
Eric
found your
Gordon.
Myles Garrett. You found we found our Joey Football. He's in Denver.
The problem with him, though, is when he says, like, I don't want to play basketball, I won't come back, he really won't. Like, he really will not. If he's gone, he's not going to come back.
Yeah, unlike Myles Garrett, I believe every word that he would say about the sport of basketball and not wanting to play it and being willing to hold out for millions and millions.
Toronto was a one-year champion and then fell to the bottom of the league. Denver has not fallen to the bottom of the league, but they also haven't gotten any better since winning the championship, and a whole lot of teams around them have gotten better when they've been basically the same 55-win team. And Michael Porter is saying that they might be in a last dance type of situation this year where it gets broken up if they don't win a championship, and I don't know how he's doing the arithmetic on that one, because it's not going to be a last dance situation where they get rid of Jokic. They might get rid of Michael Porter. They might get rid of Aaron Gordon. But when you've got Jamal Murray and Jokic together, and that's not good enough anymore. What's happening in Cleveland and Oklahoma City suggests that the league has passed them by, and obviously Boston is still there beating the Lakers, and LeBron is leaving the game as Jason Tatum goes for his usual quiet 40.
All right, and let's pump the brakes on comparing us to the Last Dance. Like Dan already outlined, you're a one-time champion. It's like Van Vliet going like, all right, we're in our last dance phase here. Let's relax. Let's win more than one.
It's always, though, something that I enjoy monitoring when the rest of the league gets competitive on what the championship standard is and then passes the championship standard, because we're all watching Denver. We saw what it took to win the championship, and all of us are looking at that and saying that's not good enough anymore. The league has elevated beyond where I've seen a lot of people, including Greg Cote, complaining about all the leads that the Miami Heat are blowing and then blaming that on Eric Spoelstra, when What's actually happening there is these games are decided in the fourth quarter the way that OKC and Denver was yesterday. The game's closed through 3 quarters, and in the fourth quarter you just see OKC run away. The Miami Heat are so limited offensively that when it gets tight late, they can't hold on to their leads because offensively they are so wildly limited. And you can sit here and say they've got a bunch of double-digit leads, but in that league, that has ceased to matter. That's not something that matters anymore, that you have a double-digit league, that they can be erased the moment that a team makes 4 threes. And so I don't know what your assessment is there, but it's not enough anymore to have just Jokic doing MVP things, because they may take the MVP away from him because they're bored by him, but he's having his best season. Statistically, that human being is getting better, and the architecture around him isn't getting better. That's not good enough anymore. We're in consensus on that, correct? Right. What was good enough a few years ago is no longer good enough in Denver, even though the MVP is better than he's ever been.
I think you're giving me a storyline that might actually get me to tune in for basketball reasons. I think a lot of it has to do with how humanizing that clip was. That's the funniest Jokic clip I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, really good.
Him talking to kids and just flatly saying, no, I'm this dominant player, maybe the greatest offensive force ever, and I don't dunk. Yeah. I don't do that. So when you have the tinge of doubt, and there's more than a tinge when it comes to Denver, you have this guy being a little bit more affable, and now he has all the tools. He's unstoppable, but he's got all this doubt about this team, and you add a little last dance element, I'm in on the Nuggets.
Can you guys explain to me why it is that we do what it is that we did earlier in the show with OKC and Cleveland that would make those fan bases insane about how dismissive we are about their teams being excellent and how bad a finals that would be if it's OKC and Cleveland? Can you explain to me why it is and how it is we do that with our big market bias, where if I took those teams and simply put them in Lakers uniforms, in Knicks uniforms, in Celtics uniforms, I've got a kind of history in it that makes the finals more interesting than this would be, even though that it is not unclear the 2 best teams during the regular season. Boston will have something to say about that in the postseason, but during the regular season, these are the 2 best teams. And if I tell an audience outside of basketball, not the basketball heads, here are you 2 worthy finals teams, why is it that I make it so small market onerous that I offend OKC and Cleveland's fan base when I say the nation doesn't want to watch that, even though basketball fans do?
I think you're looking at it through a likely TV ratings prism, right?
Well, just interest. I'm not doing TV ratings. I'm just doing interest and just generally how we want storylines that are familiar. We want the history that we're used to. It takes us a minute to adapt to. What do you mean I have to be paying attention to how good Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is, or how good it is when it's Garland and Allen and Mobley and Mitchell? What do you mean I have to change how I do all of my information gathering on who's the best because it's what I'm used to being the best as opposed to the new best?
I don't for a second. I totally understand where Cavs and Thunder fans are coming from, but we've been having these discussions about the NBA is at this inflection point. People aren't tuning in as much, and it's all happening when Cleveland and Oklahoma City are at the top of their respective conferences and have been the best teams pretty much wire to wire here. Everyone's kind of bracing for that, and the numbers are telling us they're not really digging it. We had a nice little pop on Christmas Day when it came to ratings, but generally across the board, the story isn't a good one this year. They're asking Adam Silver every avail, what are you going to do to change your sport? And this is all happening with Oklahoma City and Cleveland to top it. It's not really working for the customer at large.
I mean, everybody, by everybody, I mean people like us, probably want Knicks versus Lakers or some city for city matchup like that.
I don't. I'm confused. I want excellence. I don't care the uniforms that it wears.
I think there's going to be a growing appetite for Cavaliers and Thunder if coming into the finals, these are the 2 best teams in the regular season. SGA is the next tier of all-time superstar players, perhaps. I think this is a matchup that's going to grow on people. I'm interested in that final.
The problem is, though, like if the ratings are down and casual fans aren't watching during the regular season, when you see teams like the Cavaliers and the Thunder, because you haven't been watching and you don't know how good the teams are, you don't have that connection point. So, like, if you tune into the finals, you want to see the familiarity and you want it to feel bigger than it is. Even if these are the two best teams in the league, you're not watching during the regular season. For whatever reason, one reason or another, the ratings have been down in the regular season. The All-Star game was kind of a mess where they weren't really happy with the product. They weren't really happy with the competitions. So if you're trying to get the casuals to watch in the finals, the casuals are going to want the teams that they know of, not necessarily the best teams, because they don't know these teams as the best teams because they're not watching them as they're becoming the best teams, which is the problem the NBA is having. You don't have the fans that aren't watching every night knowing who the best players and best teams are because they just want to see LeBron James in every championship.
I think part of that, though, is like a snake eating its tail because the coverage just focuses on the big market teams, and the coverage in some respects is lazier. It's easier
They're
to
just
talk
trying to
about the
get
Cowboys
viewers
every day
in.
than to talk about the Bengals and the Browns. But like as media continues to like conglomerize, I don't know if that's a word, and just get more condensed and focused into like these big markets, then you're going to get less and less really outstanding local coverage. And that's how it's been for the last few years. Like there's fewer opportunities to work in smaller markets now if you're a media member than there is to work at one of these major networks. And they're just going to keep covering what they always have been covering.
It's a like interesting, I guess, to maybe just us conversation because people hate the media talk, but like whose responsibility does it become to fix it, right? Like, is it the league or is it on the media partners? Because the media partners are just going to go to what they always go to where they know they're going to get the numbers, and they're not necessarily, like the national media isn't going to necessarily invest in, you know what, I need to develop the fans' interest in the league and the product and getting them to know the players. That's kind of on the league to let you know who their stars are and why you should be interested, where the media partners just want the numbers, so they just go to who they know will deliver them or who they hope will deliver them.
And there's always been skepticism for younger teams that are ascending, the old theory that you have to suffer a little bit, but in the few couple of years sample that we have of expanded playoffs and in this load management era, there have been kind of some screwy NBA finals when before it used to be pretty predictable. You have a devalued regular season and fans are like, nah, I don't trust you to get past the second round, just like you did last year. You fell on your face. So when you want to be serious and you want to actually clear some adversity in the postseason, that's when I'll pay attention to you.
I want to get the sound, though, of Charles Barkley going after Kendrick Perkins and ESPN in general in a way that bears monitoring, Greg, because you have heard Shaq and Charles doing something on Inside the NBA that I believe doesn't get seen very often. They're headed toward ESPN and they're complaining about heading over to ESPN. There's some discomforts involved. I know Charles doesn't want to work there. I'm super interested to see how all of that plays out, but he's calling coworkers fools and idiots, or future coworkers, because he's complaining about what Jessica just mentioned, which is that anytime you turn into the main industry spokespeople on cheerleading and celebrating the sport, and I don't know whose responsibility it is here. Is it the media's responsibility to get fans properly informed and interested in change and the newcomers? Because the newcomers are here. They've arrived. Anthony Edwards is the reason that OKC didn't advance last year. Minnesota's less good. OKC has done some suffering. That OKC team was really good last year. Young. This year, they're better. They've grown. Holmgren is an important piece to OKC. And what have they lost? 11 times this year? Cleveland, as I mentioned, 3 double-digit winning streaks this year. They're dragging people. And Charles Barkley is saying of the media coverage what Jessica's saying, which is you can't just be talking about the Lakers and Steph all the time, but look at what LeBron Steph did on Christmas Day. It's the only game that was able to put a dent against the NFL in terms of attracting people, because we are lazy about liking what we've always liked.
But respectfully, Charles Barkley doesn't watch the majority of the teams in the league either. Like, he never knows who's on what team coming into the league. Like, he's the last person that should be criticizing media networks only showing the games of like 5 teams.
Yeah, I think I'm like the second to last because I'm not even the biggest NBA fan. But I do think you can speak to it more broadly just outside of the NBA, where like I feel like the people that host a lot of these shows and like are sort of like the vocal leaders of the sports don't realize how much fans listen to them when they're telling you a player is good or when they're telling you a team is good or a team is interesting. Like a lot of people do listen to that, and it does impact the way they view something. And if you're just talking about the same teams being interesting and good over and over again, like eventually you're probably going to be like, ugh, the Thunder, like that's gross. But, you know, a decade ago when the Thunder were really good, I don't think it was very hard for people to view them that way and be excited to see that team make a run. It's just like a lot of things have changed in the last decade with how we're viewing media.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Also, historically, in terms of like really touting the game and trying to be the type of entity that gets as many possible people in the tent and lifting up the product, that's not really what TNT has done with its basketball coverage. It doesn't really lift up the product. Half the time it's the guys taking the piss about like being bored on another blowout that's at halftime, and they're just joshing each other, and that's what people are drawn to, the personalities, and they're just perpetuating that.
But when we talk about media responsibilities and we talk about the main voices in the NBA, not only talking about the same teams, but also gravitating toward the dramatic storylines that don't have much of anything to do with basketball. I'm going to play some of this Charles Barkley sound. He's been doing it a lot of times. I'm not even sure this is the right sound because I asked them to get it now and it doesn't look like the sound that I'm looking for. But I just wanted to ask the group and the people listening to this so that they understand the nature of the problem. If Shai Gilgeous-Alexander walked into your life right now, walked in front of you, would you recognize him? I'm asking general sports fan.
Just because of the commercial, the What a Pro Wants. That's and he's tall.
Yeah, he's very
tall. And I would have been like, who's this tall guy? You look familiar. What a Pro Wants commercial.
He's not that tall, though, because I think he's not walking in like 7-footers walk into a room and you know that he's a basketball player. He's tall.
I'm starting to realize I think I watch the most NBA of anyone in this room.
I don't doubt it.
That's a problem.
I don't think that you do, but let's see.
She watches every night with Lehman.
This room,
she watches the Knicks with regularity.
I watch basketball every night. I watched all the women's conference tournaments this weekend. Wow. What a weekend. UCLA, Big Ten champs. That will never not sound weird to me. However, I should not be the one watching the most pro basketball ever.
Did you get mad at Draymond Green for going after your man's beloved Karl Anthony Towns unfairly by suggesting the other day and then apologizing awkwardly that Karl Anthony Towns did not play in the Knicks-Warriors game because he was afraid of Jimmy Butler?
Okay, yes. Like the initial claim was weak, but then the apology was just so bad. The apology was like, well, the show must go on. It was just like not really there, and it kind of bummed me out because Karl Anthony Towns was at a funeral, so he missed the game. Like one of his friends died of cancer or something. It was just very uncomfortable. The whole thing made me feel super uncomfortable to watch.
Some people are really mad at Draymond. Really mad. Like I saw think pieces calling for Draymond and Turner to evaluate the relationship with Draymond. Yeah, that's a real bad look for Draymond. Yeah. Awful.
Let's play the sound here of Charles Barkley going after what could be his future coworkers.
I saw a fool idiot on TV talking about the Lakers save the NBA.
Save the NBA?
Yeah. He's an idiot and a fool, but he know who he is. What's his name, Shaq?
Which one you talking about?
Kendrick Perkins.
Oh.
He said the Lakers, first of all, the Lakers have had a great 2 weeks. He said the Lakers saved the NBA season. That's because them fools on the other network, which we're going to be working for next year, that's all they talk about. Let me tell y'all something.
Tell me something.
And first of all, I want all the smoke. I don't whistle when I walk by the graveyard or anything like that.
I don't whistle when I walk by the graveyard. Right. I like that. Hey, man, I'm stealing that one.
The Lakers are doing great. Got a long way to go. But the reason the season's been going great for the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Y'all just want to talk about the Warriors and the Lakers. They're both doing great. Don't get me wrong. If I turn out to be wrong, I got no problem with that. But y'all are idiots because y'all talk about the Lakers and the Warriors all the time.
Do you know the history of whistling when you walk past a graveyard? Because I've heard the expression, but I don't know what it actually means. Why do you whistle when you're going past a graveyard?
I honestly don't know. To appear nonchalant, maybe, to appear as if you're not frightened to death.
But the way he was using it is saying, I don't whistle when I walk past a graveyard, and I just don't know why someone whistles by a graveyard.
Maybe that's a bad omen.
You wake the dead, maybe,
You're in a happy mood while walking past something somber. I don't know. My dad actually loves a graveyard.
I do, and have never whistled in one.
It's to pretend to be cheerful and not afraid of passing a graveyard.
That makes sense.
So did he use it correctly? I don't whistle when I walk past a graveyard. Did he use it correctly? I don't...
He did.
Is he unbothered? Did he come off unbothered?
Are you guys like my dad, though? If we're traveling somewhere in our hotel, there's a graveyard, he's just like, all right, I'm going to go walk over to the graveyard. He just likes to...
all the time. We stop at graveyards.
Are you afraid of ghosts?
No, I embrace them.
Have you seen one before?
I think most ghosts are good. I have not. I mean, not in a physical sense, Have
you felt one?
There have been imaginary, perhaps, apparition.
You're in the garage late at night, all of a sudden you hear something. Is that Alan Cherry?
No, not really. No.
Why do you do this? What is it that you do? Do you ever meet fellow grave lovers?
Sometimes, yeah. It's surprising that you'll meet people who aren't there to see a loved one. They're there because they're fascinated by history, and graveyards are history. I mean, I think the oldest one in the United States in Boston has, Civil War generals and everything buried next to, 20 feet away from people who died a couple of years ago.
There's older graveyards. We just built stadiums on them.
Yeah, they.
You mean like Revolutionary War, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's also ancient burial mounds all over.
Yeah, we stop at a lot of them. I never pass a graveyard that I don't want to see.
I do fancy a stroll through a graveyard if it's convenient.
Nah, that's odd.
Chelsea play right next to a real old Gothic graveyard.
Yeah.
And it's on the way over to the grounds. I like to cut through and just see the history.
So you just small talk with people at the graveyards when you're there?
Sometimes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's your icebreaker?
Do you ever whistle?
I have never. I'm not a whistler. My dad whistled a lot. But
Wild Bill?
When we were in New Orleans, I love the New Orleans graveyard with all the above ground stuff and
There's
everything.
probably multiple.
And I had a conversation there with an older woman who was there not to see anyone, but because she also was fascinated with graveyards.
Maybe she was a ghost.
Yeah.
How do you know?
How do I know she wasn't a ghost?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
Did you ask?
It's not like I poked her to see if my
that would have been odd.
Finger went through dust.
You don't think this is weird, that all of this is strange? Certainly you're not running into several other people often that are interested in just going to a graveyard where they put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Do you ever walk through the graveyard that doesn't have anyone in it who you know?
I think a lot of people do. But I'm not one to strike up a conversation with a stranger. So.
But what is happening here that your family clearly doesn't want to do this with you, right? You're getting someplace with your family, and there goes Dad again. He's wandering toward the graveyard.
I can remember as a kid, in New Hampshire. I don't even remember why we were there. In Maine, somewhere up north. We're at our hotel, and my dad's just like, I'm gonna walk. I saw a graveyard down the street. I'm gonna go, and we're just like, I'll stay. Thank you.
Oh my God! If we're at a hotel in walking distance to a major graveyard, I almost said I've died and gone to heaven, which would have been a weird thing to say. I edited myself.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is sponsored by BetterHelp. Who's in your support system, and how have they changed your life? Think about your favorite leaders, mentors, idols. They don't all have the answers, but they do know when to ask for help. In a world that glorifies hyper-independence, we sometimes forget that we thrive with support. We're stronger, healthier, and more resilient when we have people to lean on. Therapy is one of the best ways to build that support system. It helps with positive coping skills, setting boundaries, and becoming the best version of yourself. Here's the thing, therapy isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. It's for everybody. Whether you're facing a big life transition, feeling overwhelmed, or just want to grow, therapy can help. That's where BetterHelp comes in. With over 30,000 credentialed therapists, you can find somebody who truly understands you. It's fully online, making therapy accessible, affordable, and convenient. No waiting rooms, no long commutes, just the support you need, whenever and wherever you need it. And by the way, if you ever feel like switching therapists, it's no cost to you whatsoever. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/DLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DLB.
Howdy, folks. It's Mike Ryan. I talk to you about Miller Time all the time, but we're in the wintertime right now, and one of my favorite pastimes is to crack open a Miller Lite and enjoy myself some Miller Time during the wintertime, because when there's a brisk chill in the air, it just makes everything right. My friends and I who live down here in South Florida can actually sit outside because it's not super muggy. We can thoroughly enjoy our Miller Time together. And for you listening, I know there's a lot of things going on right now. Sports, chief among them. Nothing more important than sports. From basketball and hockey to game night, winter means more moments with the coolest people in your life. Make these moments even better with Miller Lite, the great tasting light beer for people who love beer. Now's the perfect time for friends, family, and a great tasting light beer. Taste like Miller Time. And you know Miller Lite is brewed for taste. It hits different than other light beers, and at just 96 calories and 3.2 grams of carbs per 12 ounces, Miller Time is always a good time. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan to find delivery options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Tastes like Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.